What is going on, y'all? And in this video, we are going to be checking out some very interesting information that came out about Need for Speed Unbound in an IGN interview, which we are going to be referencing in this video. Now, if you're curious as to where the gameplay in the background came from, the gameplay in the background is Need for Speed Heat running the Unite mod. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in to all of these new details. Now, as we go through some of these details in this video, just know that we are not going to be going over every single thing, just some of the main points. Now, if you guys would like to read the entire IGN article, I will leave a link to it in the description box down below. But let's begin with one of the biggest things that has been sort of an elephant in the room, and frankly has been an elephant in the room as far as Need for Speed games go for quite a while now, and that is handling. Now, in this IGN interview, they state that the driving system is the best handling that Criterion has ever put into one of its racing games. And that is a direct quote from this article. They also continue to say it's augmented by a brand new physics system, which Webster calls a super sophisticated physical simulation that's comparable to other big driving sims. Then he goes on to say the difference, Webster says, is that Need for Speed aims to be as accessible as possible through the use of driver assist mechanics. Now, personally, I'm really hoping that means that those quote-unquote driver assist mechanics will be able to be altered or disabled altogether. Now, again, it goes on to say that they aim to do that while maintaining a high skill ceiling. Then it goes on to say, I think players are really going to feel the difference and be able to, across a broad range of vehicle types, feel the difference between a nimble, small European car or a big American muscle car or a hypercar. And then when they get into more specifics of adjusting how that car handles by modifying it to suit their preferences. That shows you the level of breadth and depth that we are able to uncover with that tech. Now, whether or not this actually means a totally new, totally overhauled physics system for Need for Speed Unbound or not, only time will tell, but the things that we are hearing in this particular article and interview definitely sound promising. Now, something else I also wanted to touch on briefly is the fact that, yes, this game will only be available on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S. It will not be available on the previous generation consoles, which it's interesting because a lot of people have said, well, why is this game only available on next gen? I wish this game was not just available on next gen. And here's the thing, the next gen, I'm using air quotes that you can't see right now, but the next gen is pretty much current gen now. And I don't say that in a way that like, oh, insert certain console here is old per se, but more along the lines that the games that these developers are trying to create now are demanding of certain hardware capabilities that they are only really able to find on these next generation consoles. And without going down too much of a rabbit hole on the console topic, I can see how that would be frustrating for some people that have been trying, and I myself have friends personally that have been trying to get their hands on Xbox Series X's or PS5s that just haven't been able to due to either supply chain issues or, you know, certain places just not having them in stock or just not wanting to, like, pay dramatically over what the quote-unquote sticker price or MSRP would be for a certain console. So I completely understand how some people could be frustrated by that. But again, without going too deep into that topic, let's move on to the next topic in the article. Specifically, discussions about the single-player career mode. Now, one of the interesting things that I saw mentioned towards the top of this article was the fact that they've said Need for Speed Unbound will include an offline single-player mode and cross-play, but not cross-progression. So what I'm hearing through that is it sounds to me like you'll be able to play with your friends in certain scenarios, but not necessarily play through the story or progress through certain campaign elements with your friends that are on different consoles, which I don't think that's too much of a sacrifice, unless, you know, let's say you're the only one out of your friend group that plays on Xbox and all your friends play on PlayStation. That might start to become a bit of an issue then, but maybe not, you know, most of the time. Now, it will continue, they say, to put an emphasis on the cars themselves, meaning cockpit view itself is out, but hood and bumper cameras are in. And to continue on the topic of the campaign mode, they've actually said that the structure of the campaign mode itself is completely new. Now, this is a direct quote here. They say, so when you go into a race, there is a buy-in, which basically you have to be able to play the race, and then you can win that back with a reward if you do well, or you can lose the money that you put into it. So you have to make a choice in which races you want to do and what buy-ins you're actually comfortable with. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of consideration on the part of the player as to how risky they actually want to be. They also go on to say that each race individually gives you a little bit more heat, and so if you do lots and lots and lots of races in one particular session, your heat level will build up and you'll take a huge gamble on the money that you're carrying around as well, so there's a consequence there. So it sounds like you can not only win or lose your in-game cash from the races themselves, but it also sounds like if you build up enough heat and you get caught, you might lose that entire pot. And so that entire concept actually sounds really, really exciting to me. Like, really, really exciting to me. The only thing about that is that I think the fun factor of it is going to be strongly dependent on how well the cops are balanced in the game. They also gave a basic outline of the storyline, which they describe here as an immersive narrative in which two friends are torn apart by a robbery at a family auto shop, leaving the player to try to reclaim a priceless car by winning the quote-unquote ultimate street race. So I, for one, am not necessarily too concerned with what the direction of the story is. I'm a lot more concerned with how fun and replayable the gameplay is, because that, in my mind, is what keeps me coming back to Need for Speed over and over and over. Like, basically over the years, that is what has kept me coming back to Need for Speed. The racing and the customization, and of course, how much replayability the game has and how much fun it is to play with your friends. But it is nice to know that there is a story arc there. They go on to say that every single one of those characters, we've actually made them full characters this time. They've got little story arcs, they've got personalities, they've got their own car customization and style, and you can actually see them driving around within the game as you kind of go about your business. Now let's talk about the police in the game, because police and just the element of police chases in general have been kind of a cornerstone element of Need for Speed for many, many years. And of course, that remains here in Need for Speed Unbound. Now, they say the cops will be omnipresent in Need for Speed Unbound, but Criterion's approach will be much more quote-unquote tactical this time around. They say individual vehicles will have their own strengths and weaknesses, which players will be able to exploit during chases. Now, this is a quote here from the article: "You have to pick your strategy for the kind of cop that's coming after you. And if you get really good, you can even get in a full high heat chase. And if you know all the strategies, you can totally still get away with it. But if you don't, or you can't execute the strategies, you will be taken down." Now, the interesting part about this is that they go on to say that the cops have presented kind of an interesting issue for the series over the years, because they are necessary in of course, any Need for Speed game, but they can prove disruptive or intrusive if a player wants to complete a task or just simply drive around. Now, they say that Need for Speed Unbound supposedly addresses this by giving players the chance to deliberately decide how much cop heat they take on, the mechanic that governs how aggressive the police will be at any given time, of course being the heat level. Now, Criterion is also including a police scanner and a spotting mechanic, giving players additional options for avoiding police if they so desire. So if you really want to just drive around within the game, within the map, and have nothing to do with the chases or with the cops in the game whatsoever, it seems like you'll be able to do that. But on the other hand, if you want to get really, really high heat, you want to get intense, you want to get into as many chases as possible, you can absolutely also do that. And I'm really liking the direction that they're going here with this, because it sounds like, with, beyond anything else, they're really trying to go after that element of choice with just about every mechanic in the game. It's like, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Well, it's up to you. Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Well, either way, it's up to you. And I love when games, especially racing games, give you those elements of certain elements of gameplay being up to you. So it's like, it's not going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, you don't like this gameplay mechanic? Well, too bad, you're going to do it anyway. But more like, oh, you prefer this way of playing the game over this way of playing the game? Cool, we'll let you pick. And I really, really love the emphasis on letting the player choose. The article also continued to go on into some topics like multiplayer and post-launch content support, both of which I think are really important to Need for Speed as a whole. So let's get into some of those. Now, they say multiplayer, meanwhile, has been tuned to be as quote-unquote low friction as possible. Now, they go on to say when you go into the multiplayer mode, you can drive around the world, meet up with friends, or just mess around. They also say while there, people will be pinging off race requests and playlist requests, and you can seamlessly join any one of those events at any time. So basically a kind of a drop-in, drop-out kind of system. They also say the mode includes a banner system that will allow players to show off photos and achievements. Now, they also went on to say neither Criterion nor EA were ready to discuss whether Need for Speed Unbound would have any kind of battle pass or anything like that. However, they did confirm that it will feature a series of free content updates post-launch, including new features, experiences, content drops, and more, and all of that supposedly falling under the free content updates umbrella. And they also say it will reveal more, or EA will reveal more on the game's post-launch content soon. But that is going to do it for this video, guys, and if you enjoyed any or all of the details that we discussed in relation to Need for Speed Unbound, let me know any of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and also let me know if you're still excited, if you're more excited, if you're less excited, if you're going to be picking it up day one, or if you're going to wait, or if you're going to pre-order it. Let me know what you guys are planning on doing in regards to Need for Speed Unbound, and I will see you all in the next one. Talk to y'all later, and hope you guys enjoyed.